Hey, Mystic Magic Podcast fans. We are in for a sweet show today because today my guests are Reverend Jacqueline Trish Atkins and Dr. Tim Stewart. Reverend Dr. Tim Stewart. They are leaders in the International New Thought Alliance. What is International New Thought Alliance, you say? Well, we call it INTA. And INTA promotes spiritual inspiration and guidance for New Thought ministers, practitioners, teachers, laity, ministries, and groups. INTA offers world congresses and local programs throughout the world, and it does so to aid people's understanding of New Thought and to promote interest in it. It's a democratic umbrella organization whose goal is to be a vehicle for disseminating timeless wisdom, universal truths to spiritually awaken, empower, and transform to connect individuals globally. INTA encourages educational excellence through the New Thought movement, and it preserves New Thought's rich heritage through archival and other work, and promotes the effectiveness of New Thought practices, encourages the constant rethinking of its theoretical foundations, helps all New Thought adherents to grow in their awareness of the one presence and the one power of good, the infinite good, and stands in service to the world in achieving peace, prosperity, and wellness in all dimensions of existence. The International New Thought Alliance is the first and oldest umbrella or association in existence for the support of New Thought organizations. We strive to provide spiritual inspiration and education among the members and member organizations in the spirit of cooperation and common effort. I have here two leaders of INTA, Reverend Jacqueline Trish Atkins, who I call lovingly Reverend Jackie. She's a boss. She is the Chief Executive Officer of Chauvel and More, a non-for-profit corporation. She is the executive producer, the producer, the associate producer. She produces Gold Rush Women's Conference from every angle, from top to bottom and from bottom to top. She's a minister and a teacher at Christ Universal Temple in Chicago, Illinois. She's a graduate of the Chicago Theological Seminary. She has a master's degree in theology with an emphasis in cultural, historical context of Bible, world religions, and practical applications. She's also a graduate of the College of Law at the University of Illinois with her Juris Doctor degree. She is Attorney Atkins, and she's married to an attorney. In fact, she's married to a judge. So if that ain't a boss, I don't know who he is. Reverend Dr. Tim Stewart is an awesome guy. He's very devoted and passionate. He has been in the INTA organization for 13 and a half years. He's been the president for 2 years. Before that, he was the Tennessee district president, and he's been a board member in INTA for at least 6 years, probably more than that. He's been a community coordinator, a staff minister for Spiritual Living in Nashville, the vice president of the Divine Science Ministers Association. He's been treasurer. He knows how to handle the money. He studied at the Evangelical Christian University. He studied theology there. He studied theology at Lee University. He went to the Heart Institute, and he got his doctorate from the United Divine Science Seminary, where he was ordained as a divine science minister. So I think he's into theology, wouldn't you say? So these are the people that are here today with us on Mystic Magic. Welcome, Jackie. Welcome, Tim.
Oh, it's good to be here.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Absolutely. I wanted you to just keep talking. I liked how you sound.
Well, I like how you sound, and I'm glad I finally got you on Mystic Magic. Listen, I know we got a lot to talk about. I want to talk about why you're part of INTA. I want to talk about your take on it, what your role is there, and why.
Well, it's interesting because I was on INTA's board in the early 2000s and wrote off, as a matter of fact, really did a couple of really great things. Was a part of the New Thought effort in the World Parliament of World Religions in Australia. Spoke out over there. But I came back when I was called. Tim and the board invited me to join because I have a passion about our new thought vibration, our new thought footprint impacting the world. And we have this organization, and we could go back. You mentioned a little bit about the history, but we could go back all the way and talk about it. And every other New Thought organization has touched it, if not been fully affiliated with it. And so I
Right.
think, though we have other organizations, other umbrella organizations, and that's good, that INTA actually has a history, has a depth, has a real reason to continue on and make a difference, increasing the collective consciousness of new thought. I will say that 1,000 times before the show is over.
All right. Well, let's let Tim say what he thinks about it.
Oh, well, only one thing I was going to say. I've only been on the board for INTA for 4 years, president 2 of those 4. And I was president of Divine Science for 6 years prior to that.
Oh,
But
okay.
anyway,
Okay.
I was wondering, I thought, I didn't send her a bio and she knows everything about Jackie.
Woo!
But
I didn't know that. I did find out. But anyway, okay.
It's what I do.
INTA has been a passion of mine ever since the first time I went to a Congress. And because I remembered seeing so many different people, and we have all of the New Thought organizations. And at the time, I was really in religious science. And most of my contacts, most of the people I knew in New Thought were in religious science. And I saw this coming together, this blending, and I thought, what a wonderful way to have not only the diversity of color and sexual orientation, everything else, but also the diversity of all these different organizations coming together, united in one purpose. And that's about, really having a teaching that can change the world. It can definitely change our lives, and I believe it can change the entire world. And unless you just really want me to preach about that, I'll stop.
Well, I first discovered INTA in California, and that was in a little pocket, and that was in a suburb of Los Angeles. And then when I came back home to Chicago, at that time, we had the largest chapter in INTA. There must have been about 35 people that we would get together. We would have lunch. If we didn't have nothing to talk about, we just get together and have lunch. But we would have guest speakers come in. And so I have enjoyed my affiliation and association with INTA. So I know you have a big conference coming up in a couple of weeks. Mid-July. Why don't you tell us about that?
We have give us our 3.5 weeks. We need every minute of our 3.5 weeks as we roll into July 18th. We are extremely excited. Tim is president, identified me as the Congress chair, and I'm grateful. And my goal was to have every leader of our national New Thought organizations to be under one roof, and under that roof talking, and the vibration and the collective consciousness expanding in such a way that we live in a world with either we believe that facts change, the truth is constant, or we don't. And if facts change, then how do they change? They change by some laws that are absolutely precise. And so part of my energy has been with absolutely with the support and the direction from Tim and the other board members is to get everybody in the room, and we have been blessed to do that. And it is so exciting that we have the heads of unity, Jim Blake, Shag Groverland, Edward Villoon from CSL, Michael Beckwith, you name it. We have every head in the room, and they're going to talk about, the powerful past, but they're going to talk about the present, what I like to call the passionate present, But most importantly is, and with this impact we have, give me all of my good in the future. I want all of it. And indeed,
Okay.
if we're New Thought and we believe it, then us coming together in this way will make a vast difference. With the way it's structured, it's going to be a lot of music. I heard you talk. I heard one of your podcasts talking about celebrating souls, which I know you're going to get to. But we're going to have some good music. It's going to be different. The opening night is going to be an opening celebration of unity, of us being together, of us understanding of the power that we have, of us committing and being intentional about using it. And it's going to be using CUT band and musicians and singers and dancers under the leadership of the wonderful Reverend Dale Worley, who is a unity minister out of Savannah. It's going to be off the chain. But then we're going to go on Tuesday morning, and all of the leaders are going to be sitting together on a panel, answering questions, discussing and talking. And that's going to be Tuesday morning, which kicks off the sessions. And then we go through each session, and people, the leaders are, what's so exciting about this? The leaders are busy. Leaders are always busy. But more of them decided to stay and speak, and the individuals on Tuesday afternoon and evening and Wednesday and Thursday, as opposed to name, they were excited about this opportunity to be together, to have this vibrational footprint or collective consciousness, however you want to describe it, come into a reality. The world is calling out for us. The world is
Yes.
calling out for us. And
Well,
and and we're going to we're going to finish it up. I have a thing that's coming, and it's going to be really fun, because it's kind of like when you're taught to teach. Tell them what you're going to tell them, then tell them, and then check out what did you tell them, and that's what it's about.
well, I know that I have seen several congresses over the years, and this one is probably the most representative one that I've seen in a long time. I've seen different pieces of New Thought, and not all of them. And I have not seen all of the heads come together. So this is a beautiful thing. Tim, what are you excited about this upcoming conference in 3.5 weeks?
Well, everything about it. I am most excited, really, because as you've already pointed out, um, over the years, let me just go back and say, INTA at one time would have congresses that would have, 3 or 4, 5,000 people at them. They've been that large in the past, and now we are at a place that we are coming back together, getting people there that haven't been around in years, and we're inviting every organization to have a voice. You see, even though we use that term umbrella organization, many people, and I've had a few people question what that means, and I'm like, we don't have any government, any say so in what anyone is doing in their church. It's not about that. It's about some things that we can come together and we can work on and we can collaborate on, and we always can accomplish more working together. And it's to encourage that and to foster that. And there's always the opportunity to see people that you know and meet people that you've never met when you're
Right,
there.
right.
We're going to have a great panel. For this year, another thing we're doing, first time ever. Many people who are familiar with the Centers for Spiritual Living or Religious Science, they know who Dr. J. Scott Neal, they know that name. And as he transitioned this year, we have developed an award specifically for someone who has really known for teaching New Thought. And so we've got the J. Scott Neal Award that's going to be awarded for the first time this year,
Good.
our Torchbearer Award. And it's just all the way around. It's going to be a really exciting time. And I'm going to enjoy sitting back and listening to some other people and being the sponge. I just want to absorb it all.
I'm so glad that you are honoring Jay in that way. I attended his memorial service virtually. He was an interesting guy. I mean, he knew Ernest Holmes. He goes back that far. But I remember the last time I saw him, and he looked at me like I was a sliced bread. Like his face lit up just to see me, and that warmth and that charm that he has lives on. You can always think of Tim and know who he is. I mean, gosh, Jay, and know who he is, Tim.
Right.
So
Yeah.
let's look at what's happening with the organization. What I know is that not only are churches members, but individuals are members, because I've had a membership and I've also had my church be a member of it. And I know you have your congresses, but you also have these ministry development conferences. I think I participated in one of those at your previous center, Reverend Jackie, when you were over at Power Circle.
Yes,
Um,
absolutely.
why are those so important?
Well, that is a real time of coming together again and sharing. And usually we find people who have, successful ministries, and they share so many different ways to do things. Um, I remember the first ministerial development conference that I ever went to, and I kept having to push my jaw up off the floor because there were so many things that I'm thinking, oh, I can take this back and we can implement this in Nashville. So it's a wonderful place to grab ideas and inspiration and renewal. So yes, we do have that coming up this year in October, and so that will be in Savannah, Georgia. So be ready
Also,
for it.
it is also always a good thing for ministers to come together when nobody's watching them. That's always a good thing. I mean, because it's important for ministers to be able to breathe, let go, and really open up to learn. If everybody's watching me, I'm supposed to know it all. But if we're all there on equal footing, then I can open up and receive and share mistakes and learn from mistakes and learn from different denominations of new thought, and hear, as Tim said, different ideas. But the idea of coming together with other ministers and being open and free to learn and to share is critically important. I know each of the organizations have opportunities where ministers come together, and that's great. But I always think, all the unity ministers are looking at the other unity ministers, and all the divine science ministers are looking at the other divine. And in INTA, it's a mixture. So it's
Right.
nobody looking at you because of, that's not what a unity minister does. It's just an open, and I think an opportunity for ministers to really open up and accept, learn, and to share.
Okay, so in October, the ministers get to learn and share, but what's happening in July is where everybody gets inspired. So
Absolutely. A-
this is happening at Christ Universal Temple, and what I know about that space, not only is it large, but it has a lot of good energy around it. So I know it can accommodate people, and I know people are probably excited to be there. A lot of people probably haven't been there since Reverend Johnny Coleman made her transition. And so this is such a welcoming place. I remember when Johnny was alive and Reverend Helen was alive, that they were avid participants in INTA. And it was important
Absolutely.
to them to be there.
Absolutely. I got to tell you, the last time the Congress was in Chicago, Reverend Dr. Johnny Coleman was the Congress chair. So I'm feeling very happy to be able to follow that. But upon Mary's leaving, she made it clear, because Johnny had made it clear, you will be a part of INTA. End of discussion. It's critically important. And it was very important to Johnny and to Mary. I mean, those are the two who I was very close to. And
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Mary Tompkin being really the standard bearer after Johnny stepped down,
yes,
up until Reverend Sheila came in as the Universal Foundation for Better Living president. And so you have got all of this rich history and these black women just taking charge and doing things. But you've also got a number of different cultures, a lot of diversity, and you have something that everybody finds in common, and something about New Thought that is not religiosity, but is really spirituality. How have you chosen that for your ministry as opposed to maybe something more traditional?
You speaking to me?
Who are you
Celeste?
speaking to?
Whoever answers first.
Well, I go on, Tim. I've
Go
been
ahead.
talking. You can go on.
Oh, I was just getting back a step before your question when you were talking about the strong black women there. You know, it is a wonderful thing because I say in New Thought, if you truly understand it, and we get into these things of, yes, our consciousness creates our reality, okay? And I can get into the right wording of saying, that it responds by corresponding to our consciousness. But the fact is, if we understand it to that point of oneness, that point of who we truly are, that the very divine essence is all there is, God is all there is, expressing in, through, and as us, then we understand when we look at each other that we're each other's alter ego, I guess would be one way to put it. We're one. And so you can't really grasp this teaching without having love and respect for every person you see. If you don't love, if you're still hung up in some ism, whether it's racism or some other ism, if you're hung up in that, you really haven't let this teaching get to your heart. That's my view on it. And
And I know,
Reverend Dr. Jones,
and
oh, you're,
go ahead. Before Jackie comes in, I just wanted to mention that you talk about on your website that INTA celebrates diversity of all people and rejects and strongly disavows all forms of racism, sexism, or any other ism that negates the truth of any person. And so the INTA offers information and takes appropriate action wherever possible to create and support a just and equitable society. What does that look like?
And that's for me what am I unfolding in New Thought, and why I'm so intense on us having this collective consciousness. I need to be able to be very comfortable to go in the prisons. I need to be very comfortable to be able to work with and eliminate homelessness. I need to be very comfortable with not just praying in church. I need to take my faith, put feet on them, and move on out of the door. We say we follow Jesus, that's CUT. That's our Jesus principle. My brother never stayed in anybody's church building very long at all, okay? And it is so critically important. There are so many facts of this world that are calling out for us to change them. And so, New Thought, get up, get up, get up. Okay, I'm going to stop. Okay.
Well, I know when you calling Jesus your brother, I know that we're all, individualized expressions of God. And I hung out with you for a little while with that Freedom Light Prison Ministry. And, what made you decide to go that route? I mean, you were kind of on the other side of like either helping people to get in or helping people to stay out of jail as an attorney. So what is it that called you to do that particular kind of ministry, Jackie?
This is very interesting. Again, working with women. That's how come I know I'm called to work with women. I was working with women. It was Kairos. You may or may have heard of Kairos before, where we bring women together over the weekend, women who had loved ones in prison. And we'd work with them for a whole weekend to make them, they'd come in body bent and walk out standing straight. And from that, though, I learned in even a deeper sense, a way that I hadn't thought about it before. Because as you said, as an attorney, even as a prosecutor, there was a mindset. But I got to tell you, when you start recognizing that there's nothing in the prison but a piece of you. So you need to figure out how to make sure that at least they have an opportunity to hear the truth in a way that is correct, accurate, and for real, not pablum, but straight up. And I'm going to tell you, the people in the prisons that and you were there, so, I mean, well, before until COVID, I mean, we'd have crowds sometimes running down wanting to hear the word of truth. And so we used to always say, we're talking about now. Whatever you want to do after you leave your body, that's your business. But I'm talking about right now. And so it was just working with women, and the impact that their loved ones been in prison had really moved me into this. And since I've been back with UFBL, our senior minister, has been extremely supportive of my working in the ministry of the prison ministry, but also now working with eliminating the facts that create the homelessness, and the facts that there is no reason in this country anyone is sleeping anywhere but in a wonderful, comfortable bed. Okay.
Mm-hmm. All right. So we have seen, a lot of traditional churches do this kind of work. What makes New Thought different? I haven't defined New Thought in a long time. I started this podcast a couple of years ago, and I first defined it then. How would you define New Thought? Tim, you go.
Yeah.
Well, I think of New Thought as both a means of a faith, but it is, well, I'll borrow words from the front of the Science of Mind textbook when he said it's a faith and it's a philosophy and it's a way of life.
Mm-hmm.
And when you really get in it, it is all of that. Now, I'll be the first to say that when Reverend Jackie talks about doing her prison work, that's a thing that you don't see as much New Thought, or at least in my area, doing that.
Yeah.
And I think that's a huge area for us. But to define it, it is to me, something that's a natural spirituality.
Yeah.
And I've shared this before, and it gets a little bit. Remember, it came from the mind of a young child younger than 9, and I was amazed. I could probably, it was more like 7 or 8, but my cat had had kittens, and it had really upset my mother because it did it in my closet when she gave birth to her kittens. But I was so amazed by those kittens, and it began a thought process in me about life itself and what made me who I am. And laying in bed at that age, somehow the only thing that I came to is that it was God within me making me who I am.
There it is.
And so, as I say, New Thought to me is a natural spirituality that I think is inherent in everyone if it's not taught out of them. Because I was a traditional minister for many years, but that was things I was taught. New Thought was coming home, and it is a natural spirituality to me.
Yes. Celebrating the divine in us.
It celebrates the divine in us and in others. I'm sure you both remember Reverend Della Reese.
Mm-hmm.
And many years ago, I was at a banquet, and Della was the keynote speaker, and she came down and sat at the table beside me when she finished. And as we got into a conversation, I had just been through a car wreck. I had spent 89 days in a wheelchair. I had had other surgery, and I'd spent the better part of a year and a half recuperating. And I told her, I said, I get so tired of going to church and people say, "How are you?" And I repeat a doctor's report. And she looked at me as only Della could do it. And she started with, "Why, honey?" And when she said, "Why, honey?" she said, "If anybody asks me how I am, I tell them I'm blessed, and so are you."
Yes. Yes.
And I modified that a little bit because I live in the South, and you have some very judgmental things sometimes in churches. So I changed a little bit, and I would say, "I'm fabulous, and so are you."
Yes.
And what I found is my body healed faster. Even my doctors would look at me and shake their head sometimes with things with healing. But I found that I'm fabulous. To add that story, you people don't care how high you lift yourself as long as you take them with you.
Mm-hmm.
And the wonderful thing about New Thought is you have to see that magnificence in everyone. I don't care who they are, their status in life. We're all elevated to that point. It's not about bringing God down, it's about elevating us up
Yes.
to that. Anyway,
I just,
uh,
oh, I just
Go
want
no,
ahead,
go
to,
ahead.
Jackie.
I'm talking too much.
I just tag on because I know it's less time. The notion of new thought is what Tim just said, and what I am called with women to remind them: you are the power. Now, if it's gotten covered up, it doesn't matter. If you've forgotten, you haven't used it, all of that's okay. You are the power. There's no way of getting around. You are that power. And so understanding, as Tim said, when you look at that at the quote unquote prisoners, when you look at that at the homeless, you have to think, you are the power, man. You are the power. I know it. I know. And this is all the conversation you're having with yourself. I know it looks rough right now, but you are the power. Knowing that and really holding on to that truth is what's going to make the difference in the world for real. And that's why that expansion, that new thought footprint has to just expand. It's got to touch everything so that everyone, those that we love to hate, we have to know they are the power. And indeed, they've gotten caught up into some kind of foolishness. That's okay. They still are the power, and there's an option there. Okay.
Yes. So what I know is that y'all are passionate about your ministry, and that's a beautiful thing. And we have a wonderful conference coming up in August called Celebrating Our Soul. A lot of times people try to put S's on it, but the soul is that aspect that we all share. It's the place from where the divine meets us and where we create from. So there doesn't have to be a mention of more than one soul. We're all in this soul, right?
Love it. I
And
love it.
so what made INTA want to be a part of this conference that we're having in August?
I will say this as president. To me, it was part of supporting, but also proving what we say, not being just lip service. We wanted to do something in support because, again, today I'm one of these white guys that race issues come up to me, but they come up where I'm. Uh, well, I've been in restaurants with a woman of color and been refused service. I've done those things. I've been with a practitioner that I met one night to discuss some things, and everyone turned to look at us because she actually was someone who had transferred here from Agape. And I believe so much in the mission that you're doing and recognizing people that have been just tremendous parts of New Thought that are people of African descent. So I thought it was time to really stand up and do something that was more than lip service, but to do something that was tangible. So that's why we chose to support it the way we do.
And so INTA is an event sponsor for Celebrating Our Soul, a New Thought conference by people of African descent. Reverend Jackie, you seem to be excited about it too.
Absolutely. There are so much, there are so many things. And I heard you mention a podcast. In my studying in Chicago Theological Seminary, I studied world religions. And I love Will Coleman long before I got into New Thought. But what was important for me to learn, New Thought its start is real colored. I mean, if you come into it
African.
in America, when I say, I mean, it's real color. The coloring is there all over the place, and even as you go into what and kind of lifted this up, Michael Beckwith picks it up, but when I studied world religions, Hinduism. I mean, I sat in a study of Hinduism, and I could have been sitting in a New Thought church in many ways. So the fact that the people of color, how do you all frame it? Folks of African descent are
Yes,
coming together, and others I know there's no one excluded, everyone is invited, but to
right.
have that main stage and have that discussed and have such theologians. I love me some Will Coleman. I love him. It's just very exciting. It's going to be an excellent opportunity for everybody to grow, expand, and to, yeah, stand up,
Yeah,
walking
I
straight.
understand. I understand how you feel about Will. I've been studying with him for 12 years.
Hmm.
Reverend Michael, who was my teacher, said, "Well, you need to know Will Coleman," and so that was it. Whatever he
Yeah.
said, and I was like, okay. And so I won't get into that further, but I will say I know you have the Gold Rush Women's Conference. Is it
Absolutely.
is there
It's
anything in addition to that you want to promote, either of you?
I would like just to invite everybody on Wednesday morning to join me on the Gold Rush Women's Facebook page, 10 to 10:15. A prayer break. A prayer break. You take a coffee break, take a prayer break. But the Gold Rush Women's Conference the last weekend in April 2023, we stepped back so we could lift it up, and that's going to be an awesome experience come next year.
All right. Gold Rush Women's Conference, April 23. Tim?
Yes.
I don't think there's anything else. I know that I will be speaking at the Divine Science Federation's conference. It'll be coming up also in August, but just right after. I mean, like if you were to go to the um, people of African descent in New Thought, if you were to leave there and you headed straight to Florida, you would just about arrive on time.
Okay.
So,
So we've got INTA, Celebrating Our Soul, Divine Science, back to back to back, and then come back in October. There is the INTA Ministers Conference. And so there's
Yes.
a lot of times to celebrate, a lot of times to party, a lot of times to lift each other up. And I'm
Even
just
a
so
little,
grateful.
even a lot of time to grow, to
Yes, yes.
expand. Yeah.
Yes. So for me, that's lifting. And so what I know is that Tim will continue to feel deeply about the things that he feels deeply about, and he'll continue to put some muscle behind it. I know that Reverend Jackie will continue to do her work enthusiastically, and that she has a fire in her that I know that you can't miss from hearing her, and that she is dedicated to be of service. And so having these two individuals on Mystic Magic is a beautiful thing. This is a question that I ask everyone who comes to Mystic Magic. Can you think of a mystical moment that changed your life?
I had one recently, and I will just say it like this. I truly came into clarity about hearing God and trusting. Saying no when everybody and everything would have said, "Oh, yeah, you just gotta say yeah, you just gotta say yeah." Saying no, and after the moment it came out, it was such perfection within my being, that it was as if me and that spirit were dancing across the floor. So my thing is keep on with your meditating, keep on with your communion, because when you need it most, you'll be able to turn and hear yes or no. And if you really follow it, there is such a peace that $1 million and all the adoration in the world can't give you.
Amen.
Mm,
Thank you.
yeah. And for me, I remember a time in meditation, and I was outdoors, and really the thought was about love, and God is love. Everything is love. and suddenly it was as if I wasn't just where I am in this physical body. It was that everywhere I could see, I was there. It
Mm.
was that mystical moment of just feeling the divine. And it was amazing thing. I could share some others, but
Yeah.
I think whenever we get into that place and knowing, and as I tell people, you don't want to hope or think, you want to be at that place of knowing,
That's
Yeah.
right.
and that's what that does. That brings us to a place of knowing.
Hmm.
And
Yes.
yeah.
So, what is the name of the Congress this year?
One mind, many ways. I
No,
want to say that
no,
because that's what I always call it. That's the official name.
no, no, it's not that. It's one mind, many voices, isn't it?
Ah,
Okay.
okay.
How about trying one mind as many? We were going to do voices, so I'm embarrassed. You have the president and the first vice president here, and we both said that incorrectly. But it's
Okay.
one mind as many. It's the posterity, passion, and potential of new thought.
All
That
right.
I
So,
the tagline. That's good. Yeah, that's it.
just go to newthoughtalliance.org and you can see it for yourself. This
Yep.
conference coming up July 18th through 21st at Christ Universal Temple, 11901 South Ashland Avenue in Chicago, Illinois, 60643. And that is where you're headed, but that is just the beginning of a journey that will unfold magnificently in your life.
Yes.
Yeah. And Reverend Celeste, I'd like to add one thing. We do have a second website, and
Okay.
it's called newthoughtevents.org.
Okay.
And you can go to New Thought Events. You can register online there. And we not only put our INTA events there, we will put events for other organizations. So
We have
just
celebrating
remember
soul.
that.
So it's
And
celebrating our soul there?
Yep.
Celebrating Our Soul is there. If you go to the
Great.
front page, we did put our thing is at the top, but right underneath it, you have Celebrating Soul. And if you click on the artwork for that, it takes you right to the site that someone can enroll for Celebrating Our Soul.
Yeah.
Excellent. Wonderful.
Yeah.
So you
Well,
are there.
Yeah. I
I
want to thank
am,
you.
yeah, yeah. I wanted to say I appreciate who each of you are, that you are some magnificent beings. I'm not just saying that to be a polite host. I know you, Jackie, for a while, and you're all about, doing the right thing. And I know that about Tim too. So I'm just so grateful for your spirits. Thanks for coming to Mystic Magic.
Thank you for the
Thank you for
invitation.
having us. Thank
Yes.
you.
Looking forward to seeing you in July.
Yes. This is Mystic Magic, exploring our spirit to understand our lives.